So for a lot of new drivers, the sign-up process getting started with Uber can be quite daunting, but it actually is a lot easier than it might seem. And today, I'm excited to have Sachin Kansal from Uber, who's VP of Product, and we're going to go over some of the getting started tips and everything that you need to know to take that first trip and hit the road. Sachin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me here.
All right, I'm excited to chat and to learn more and go through the steps. So, would love to know a little bit more. I've been driving for a long time. I guess I technically signed up to drive for Uber almost 8 years ago. Most people don't make it that long in rideshare years. It's a long time. But I remember my first trip and signing up and, the whole process. And, back in the day, it was easy. I remember signing up from my couch and, there was a bit of apprehension on that first trip. But once I got out there and going, a lot of things started clicking in motion. You really learn a lot from that experience. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it is very, very important for us to make sure that drivers can onboard onto our platform
Yeah.
as easily as possible. We actually
Gotcha.
spend a lot of time on that. Drivers can just go to uber.com and they can start the sign up process. They need things like their driver's license, their
Yeah.
vehicle registration, their insurance. They need to consent to background check.
Yeah.
And as long as they're passing the safety standards, they can get started to drive.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that is very important for drivers that we have heard when they're in the sign up processes, there's some anxiety about earnings in their first few weeks. How much money am I going to make? Am I going to
Yeah.
accept the right trips or not? So, what's really important that we have done is typically a driver, as you can see at the top here, is going to get an earnings guarantee.
Got it.
So irrespective of the kind of trips they accept in the first few weeks, it gives them peace of mind that I'm going to make a decent amount of money.
Got it.
And then by the time they've started getting used to the platform, and then they can make their decisions to optimize their
Yeah,
earnings.
and so obviously in a city like San Francisco, where there's a lot of demand and earnings tend to be a bit higher, I see, for example, $2,700 guaranteed after 200 trips, and so that includes things like tips and bonuses and everything. Basically, you kind of guaranteed that you're going to make that
Yeah,
amount.
they are going to make that much amount irrespective of what kind of trips they take, as long as they spend a certain amount of time on the road.
I like that a lot because one of the things we always tell drivers is honestly at the start, I mean, I know everyone's doing this job for the money, right? I mean, that's why they call it a job. But, at the start, I kind of prefer telling and advising people that, focus less on the money and focus more on getting started, getting used to the app, understanding, how trips come in and out and how to basically, be the best driver you can be. So it is nice that the earnings guarantee kind of allows to take your mind at ease off the earnings.
No, absolutely. And the one other thing that we have also added, and I'll take a few steps further, is Uber has both an Eats business and a Rides business.
Yeah.
And what we have done very recently is rather than that seeming like two different sign up flows for drivers, it's now all a seamless single flow.
Got it.
They can make a decision whether they want to do just rides, just delivery, or they want to do both. A lot of drivers are actually preferring to do both so that they can optimize and manage their earnings. And then what you can do is you can provide us the information that is required for both Eats and Rides. On Eats, you can actually get approved within a few hours.
Gotcha.
And you can be on the road. You are starting to make money, and then it takes a few days to get approved for rides. And at that point, once you're approved for both of them, then you can get both Eats trips as well as Rides trips.
Yeah.
And it really provides them that flexibility, which helps them optimize their earnings.
Yeah, no, that's a good point because obviously over the past couple of years, we've seen a lot of drivers sign up for food delivery. We've seen some drivers switch from rideshare to food delivery. And so I think especially when you're first getting started, I mean, frankly, I think that, I don't know that I would say food delivery is easier than rides, but, like you said, right, there's less requirements to start. You don't have to do the vehicle inspection or, you can kind of, things move a little quicker. So you can sort of dip your toe in with food delivery and then maybe you love it and stick with it, or maybe you want to try rides. So I think that flexibility is definitely nice.
That's right. Now, then, after they have signed up and they're approved to drive, as you were talking about earlier, the first few days can be daunting.
Yeah.
What is that offer going to look like? What happens when I accept the trip? And we have tried to take that anxiety away as much as possible. Now, let me show you a couple of things in that regard. So you open the app for the first time. The first thing that you see is what we call a welcome guide. You can tap to continue, and we offer many different experiences, but my favorite is the trip demo. So when you tap on the trip demo, now we're going to try to make this thing real without actually you being on a real trip.
Gotcha.
So I'm just going to take you through some of the steps. So I hit go, see a trip demo, and you can just tap to begin. And what we are trying to do here is to show the actual screens that a driver is going to see when they're on a trip and just help them orient it to the experience. So
Got it.
going online, just hit the go button, it's highlighted, I hit the go button, and this is the process of going online. Then we give them tips, such as it may take a while for you to get your first trip. So they may,
Gotcha.
they should be patient. They may be in an area which has low demand. So we just want to ask them to wait to get their first trip. Tap to continue. And then when the first trip comes in, I think that is a moment of excitement, but also a moment of anxiety. All they need to do is to tap on the offer card to accept the trip. Of course, they can decline the trip as well. They have the choice and flexibility. And then they can start navigating to the pickup point. They just hit the navigate button, and a lot of drivers are surprised. This is very similar to their Google Maps experience when they're just using it for their personal use. So it's very, very intuitive. Then they get to the pickup point. This is where some confusion can happen. And we want to let them know that you can call the passenger, you can message the passenger. There are many ways for you available to do that coordination. They tap to continue. And when the passenger is in the car, they just swipe at the bottom and they can start the trip and they can start navigating to the destination. And then when they're at the destination, same thing, they can just swipe to complete the trip. And then they can rate the rider just like the rider can rate them. 5 stars. I rate the rider. And then I can go offline after that. So what we're doing is you literally take them through the entire end-to-end trip journey so that orients them to how this works.
Yeah, I like that a lot because I actually remember we released a video back in the day and it was one of our most popular videos and it was the first thing you should do as a driver and it was actually to take a ride as a passenger because that was sort of one of the best ways where you could see some of how the app works and see the driver coming to you and you sort of saw it from that different perspective. And I still recommend that, but definitely being able to do that practice first trip, definitely makes things easier. And I think also takes a lot of the fear out of your mind too, or the anxiety because, once you get a few trips under your belt, a lot of that goes away and you start worrying about, more important things like maybe making more money or what offers are coming in.
Exactly. Now, the other thing we recently added is what I showed you right now is a trip demo. But when your first trip actually comes in, we've introduced an audio guide, which I'll show you a quick snippet of.
I'm here to guide you through your first trip.
Oh, so this is on an actual first
trip. This is on an actual when you're actually going online.
Please reach out in the help section of the app. You may receive a request shortly, depending on the amount of trip requests in your area.
And
Tap to accept the trip.
And then when a request comes in, you get the guidance.
To start the trip, confirm the rider's name, then slide right on the start button.
So you get the idea that for the first trip, and you can certainly turn it on for subsequent trips as well, but you may not need it. But for the first trip, you get that audio guidance to make sure you're taking the right step.
So I love all that you guys have done with the first trip, but me and my business, it's all about getting the hang of things, starting to learn more and, gaining more experience. So where can people go for ongoing knowledge or, once they get the master of the basics, how do they get into the more advanced or intermediate stuff?
No, absolutely. So when you go to our menu, there's a learning center that you can access, whether you're a new driver or you've been on our platform for many years. And we have many featured courses here. And these are 1-minute videos. These are quick snippets in different categories. There are certainly things about before you start, how trips and deliveries work, how do you optimize your earnings, and even as you get more advanced, tips for pros. How do ratings work? How should I think about ratings? Or how do I increase my tips? And then certainly safety, and in California, Prop 22 benefits. So, and we have about 10 to 20 courses right now, but we keep adding to this list as we introduce more features.
Interesting. Very cool. All right. I'll have to check it out because there might be a thing or two even that I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah, please do check it out.
Cool. So I wanted to follow up on the last part of your demo. You talked about earnings. And so, when we talk to drivers and survey them, one of the most important things, believe it or not, is earnings, how much they're going to make. And, I don't think that's special to gig economy, right? Everyone cares about how much money they're making. So tell me a little bit about earnings. Like what should drivers expect in terms of earnings? And how do you also just set the right expectations, right? Because if you tell drivers they're going to earn one thing and then they don't, right, they're going to be disappointed. But also if you don't give them, enough earnings, they're probably also not very happy. So how do you balance the two?
Yeah, Harry, as you said, at the end of the day, they are on the platform to make money. We talked about how in the first few days, we want to make sure they get used to the platform.
Yeah.
We have the earnings guarantee to give
Right.
them peace of mind. But then very quickly, we want to make sure that they have the flexibility and the visibility to optimize and maximize their earnings.
Gotcha.
Let me show you a few things
Sure.
in the app today. So this is our home screen. You can go to the menu and you can go to the Opportunity Center. Now, Opportunity Center is great because most of your trips are going to come through the real-time offers that just pop up whenever a rider is requesting a trip, but there's more than that. So they can go to the Opportunity Center and they can see if there's a promotion that is running right now.
Gotcha.
You know, such as if you do 20 trips, then you get a certain bonus, which really allows them to maximize their earnings.
Yeah.
In addition, what's really popular with riders right now is to book in advance. We have the Uber Reserve product where if a rider is going to the airport tomorrow morning, they may book a trip right now. So drivers can actually go into the Opportunity Center and they can see those and they can actually accept in advance. And then I can blend it within my schedule. Now I know that I have to do a pickup tomorrow at 9:15 a.m. and I can just plan for that.
Gotcha.
And these are all the things that they can do to maximize their earnings.
Yeah, I like that a lot because, obviously in the bigger cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco, the bonuses and the quest offers tend to be higher. And, one complaint that we hear from drivers in smaller to medium markets is that they don't see the same types of bonuses or maybe any bonuses. But I think products like Reserve, they're available, more nationwide, right?
Yeah.
Than maybe quest offers.
Yeah, and we are launching them in all of the cities, not just here in the US, but worldwide as well.
Yeah, and obviously it's nice because you actually see where they're going and how much the trip is going to pay you and the time, of course, too. So it sort of seems like a real win-win. Has that feature been pretty popular with drivers?
It's been very popular and it's great for riders because they can plan ahead and it's great for drivers because they can plan ahead and then they have certain amount of certainty in terms of their earnings. The other thing that we hear from drivers is, when is it busy and where do I make more money and at what time of the day?
Gotcha.
So we recently launched a product called Earnings Trends. So based on historical trends that we have seen in a city, you can see which area of San Francisco here, between the times of Tuesday 3 to 4 p.m., where can I make more money and where it may be a little bit less busy. I can see it either on a map view or I can see it in a list view where I can go location by location and I can see over the course of a day where is it more busy. So it just allows me to plan, when do I want to drive?
Yeah, that's cool. It's funny. I actually, in my Uber driver app the other day, I just noticed the earnings trends for the first time, and I kind of skipped over it. It didn't really click that it was a new feature. But I think this, because some of the trends are more obvious, right? Monday through Friday, people going to and from work, it's busy. But, on a Tuesday at 3 p.m. in San Francisco, I have no idea where to go or when to drive, in order to stay busy. Now, I guess the only thing that sometimes drivers complain about, right, is that demand, but there's also the supply side of things, right? So if a lot of drivers drive to those areas, then potentially maybe demand goes down, or how do you guys account for that?
I think we think about just providing them visibility and flexibility. Now, it may work for them, it may not work for them because, there's a certain busy time when I may not be able to drive because I have to pick up my kids. But we want to make sure that they have the visibility that they need, both in terms of historical trends, but also in terms of real time. So this is based on historical trends, but to your point where, how does demand work? So this is the real time map.
Gotcha.
So I may have thought about, hey, I want to drive between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m., but now that I'm online, where should I go?
Yeah.
And so you can see that, the areas that are in gray, there's higher demand there. And the areas that are in orange and red, that's even higher demand, that we actually have a surge bonus happening.
Gotcha.
So that really allows the drivers to make a decision on where do I want to drive.
Well, and I guess the thing that I like about the flat rate surge, right? So I'm always a little skeptical of the gray areas where it says it's busy because you're not guaranteed a ride when you get there. You're not guaranteed a bonus. But obviously with the flat rate surge, all you really need to do is get into that area and then accept the next trip that comes your way, and you are guaranteed that bonus. So the thing I like about that feature, and one thing we've criticized in the past, is that it didn't really, the busy areas didn't put their money where their mouth is, but the earnings guarantee, the flat rate surge does, because if you go to that area, you will get that amount on your next trip.
You got that exactly right. We want to give you visibility about what's where we have high demand right now. But as you said, if you go into that area when it's showing $7, you're going to get those $7 on your next trip from that area.
So, I think along these lines, I mean, one thing we often hear from drivers is that they may even know the busiest times and the most lucrative times to drive, but they actually, like you said, it fits well into their schedule to maybe only drive during days. We hear from a lot of drivers who are older, who actually don't like driving at nights, they don't like dealing with the passengers, or they don't like, it's even harder for them to see addresses. So I think that's the other big thing we see is that it's important to know when and where are the best times to drive, but also align that with your personal schedule, right?
Absolutely. The other thing we hear, Harry, is drivers tell us, yes, I know that morning commute is really busy and evening commute is really busy, but I'm only going to start driving after I drop off my kids, say, at 8:30 a.m. And then I'm going to drive from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. And within that window, it's important for them to know where is it busy and how busy is it going to be and how much money they're likely to make. So our goal is to provide as much visibility as possible so they can make their own decisions.
So, like we talked about, during the past 2 years of the pandemic, a lot of people have signed up to deliver food with Uber Eats, and a lot of Uber drivers have also switched and, maybe exclusively done food delivery, or some might do a mix. So how do you think about balancing the two, and what should drivers expect when it comes to rides versus food?
Yeah, there are a few aspects to that. First of all, we want to make sure that signing up for both deliveries and rides is as easy as possible.
Yeah.
We saw in the onboarding flow that it now feels like a singular flow rather than two different things that I have to do.
Yeah.
So, and we want to make it easy for them to sign up for both. Now, on an ongoing basis, it is very easy for a driver to manage whether I want to do deliveries only, whether I want to do rides only, or whether I want to do both. So I can go to my settings screen and you can see it's as easy as touching a button.
Yeah.
I currently am signed up for, or I am available for both deliveries and UberX. But let's say if I don't want to do deliveries right now, I can just turn that off. Now we do let them know that, hey, this will reduce your earning potential a little bit because you may get fewer offers if you're turning deliveries off, but we want them to have that choice. In addition to that, what we also show them is, let's say it's lunchtime or let's say it's dinner time right now and rides happens to be slow.
Yeah.
And I have deliveries turned off like I just turned off. We want to let them know that, hey, there are actually more delivery opportunities and you may want to consider turning that on. This has been very popular with drivers.
So I'm not the biggest fan of taking deliveries and rides, simultaneously, one after the other, because obviously you've got food in your car 1 second and then you've got a person the next, and vice versa. Sometimes the people smell worse than the food, and sometimes vice versa, right? But I do like the idea of during lower demand times on rides, for example, switching to food, and maybe during lunch rush, right, where there aren't a lot of rides coming in, I can go do food, I can make more money there, I can stay busy. The other time that I found it's been really useful for me personally, switching to food delivery, is at the end of a shift, when let's say I'm right here, on the map in San Francisco, and I want to end my day there, right? With rides, I mean, you can get a 10, 20, 30 mile trip pretty easily, right? Uber has a destination filter that's really popular, but it won't keep you in an area, right? It will only send you trips going to an area. So I like switching to food delivery because, you're never getting an order more than 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 miles away, right? So it's a good way to kind of stay in one area at the end of a shift, for example.
That's exactly right. We hear from drivers that they have a certain preference. Some people want to converse with passengers and they like that interaction. Other people like to carry food and deliver food. Some people don't want to deal with the parking at a restaurant. So, and we want to honor those preferences and support those preferences. But then when, let's say, the demand on rides, let's say, is low, they do want to turn Eats on, and vice versa. And our goal with a feature like this is to just provide them that visibility, that even if you decided to turn delivery off, you should know that right now there's a lot of demand on delivery, whereas it may be a little bit slower on rides.
All right, so I've really enjoyed going over things like earnings and the first trip and the demo. Is there anything else that you want to touch on, or anything else you think is really important to that first day, first trip, first week of Uber driver's life?
We have done a lot of work in making sure onboarding is easy and understanding how the app works is easy, optimizing earnings is easy. But we fully understand that, especially in the first few weeks, some other questions may come up or situations may come up where drivers need support. So what drivers can do is just go into the menu and go to help, and there's a 24/7 phone support available, and an agent is available. There's certainly many topics listed here, and they can self-serve help for those topics. But if they really need to talk to someone, All they need to do is to hit call support and call us, and there's a number 800 number available that they can call and they can get any support.
Yeah.
So
I know that definitely, phone support has been popular for drivers because obviously, some of these issues, it's hard to describe over chat or over email. So being able to call someone and have them there definitely saves them time and probably a little heartache too.
no, absolutely, and we want to make sure that they feel that peace of mind, especially in the first few days of driving.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, I really appreciate you coming into the car and showing me everything that Uber's been up to when it comes to the first day, first trip, because I think it's really important to set the right expectations for drivers and also just set the right first impression, right? I think that, when you're signing up to drive with Uber, it's a big commitment on, the driver's side. They do a lot of research, spend a lot of time, and so I think it's important that they, get set off on the right foot and they're able to take advantage of the best aspects of driving for Uber. Sort of like you said, there's times and places where you can make the most amount, but balancing that with your schedule and the flexibility is, one of the best parts about driving. So we want drivers to take advantage of that as much as possible.
No, absolutely. We know that drivers have a lot of options in the gig economy,
Yeah.
and we want to make sure that the Uber platform is inviting and easy to onboard onto, but then also offers them many opportunities to maximize their earnings.
Yeah, cool. Well, it usually all comes back full front and center to earnings. So we appreciate all the work you're doing, and we'll keep an eye out for new features in the future.
Great. Nice to
All
talk
right.
to you, Harry.
Take care.